Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cinderella Circle. I am your host, Danielle Marivette Hernandez. Danielle Hernandez. Marivette. As you can see, we are not in the woods today. It's a little thunderstormy out there. It's a little muddy, little too leafy. We're back in the studio. Back with the blackboard. So today, let's review. We have so far covered 5 different versions of films that have covered the Cinderella tale. We have Ever After, Into the Woods, Cinderella, 2000, The Slipper and the Rose, and Ella Enchanted. All of these versions are very different. So very different. And yet, all of them are the same because in their essence, they are a Cinderella tale. And to be a Cinderella tale, it needs to cover a few things. So let's review what those things are. So to be a Cinderella tale, it starts in grief. Generally, it's beginning with the passing of Cinderella's mother. Sometimes it's beginning with the passing of her father. So we'll just write passed on parent. But one way or another, Cinderella's story starts with grief and loss and her servitude. Her servitude comes with abuse, disdain, and I cannot stress this enough, the fact that people do not see her as a person. They do not see her value. They do not see her worth. There's also spirituality in the tale of Cinderella because she communicates with her dead mother. She is going to her grave. She is weeping her sorrows, praying, begging. It's not a pretty place, grief. So this is the beginning of a Cinderella tale. As long as you have grief from a passed on parent, servitude and abuse, and spirituality, you have the ingredients to start your Cinderella narrative. Maybe we should call this How to Write a Cinderella Story. The servitude is different in different versions. Sometimes she becomes a member of the household staff. Other times she replaces the household staff and she's meant to do all the work of an entire staff on her own. Sometimes the spirituality is blended with magic or science. One could even say you can add spirituality to magic and come out with science. I mean, that's an equation. Equation is math. Math and science go hand in hand. It works. So the spirituality and the magic are interchangeable. Cinderella starts in misery. It's not happy. It's not pretty. But we all go through phases in our life that are not happy and are not pretty and are setting us up for change and transformation, and ultimately for a better place than where we are right now. This is the first part of the formula. Step 2. So after that, after we have our spirituality, our grieving, the loss of a parent, now we begin to move on to this. We have a connection to nature, which is still tied into spirituality, in my opinion. We have a leap of faith. Remember, Cinderella going to the ball is a huge leap of faith. I mean, yes, it's exciting, and it might not sound like a leap of faith, but to be caught at this event, to be captured, it could literally mean a fate worse than death. Actually, she's already living a fate worse than death. It could be something that ends badly for her, but she has nothing to lose, and she's going for it. And we can learn something from her, because leaps of faith can be scary. This next one might seem trivial, but it's the dress and the shoes, and I'm going to tell you why. Obviously, it can't be a Cinderella version if we do not have the dress and the shoe moment. As we touched upon in our very first Cinderella Circle, the dress and the shoes represent her elevation in status. And I don't mean just like from a servant to a soon-to-be princess. I mean her emotional status, her mental status. When we're grieving, it's likely that we're not taking care of ourselves as best that we could be. Think of all of quarantine. Think of the clothes we wear. Think of what we wear at home when we're lounging and in comfort versus what we put on to put ourselves on display, to show ourselves off to our best abilities, our best angles, how you like to be seen. Those are different clothes, likely. I mean, There's an exception to every rule. I'm sure there's that one person who will happily wear their sweatpants indoors, outdoors, and at the governor's ball. That's fine. But this is about the Cinderella moment. This is about her exchanging her rags. She's not allowed to dress in anything better, because clothing is a way to represent status. And if your clothes are torn and tattered and they're ripped, that you can't afford to take care of yourself, that you are in a position in life where there's poverty and there's suffering and there's grief. But when she has her transformation, when she makes her leap of faith and the dress and the shoes come out, the dress is genuinely sumptuous and delicious, and it's just fabric that's soft and luscious, or it's shiny and it displays her and it's eye-catching. It's meant to catch attention because she is allowed to be seen. She's no longer in the background. She is now in the forefront. You go, Cinderella, you go. Now, as we saw, there was a version where the shoe didn't even matter at all, and that was Ella Enchanted, where the shoes showed up mostly to wink at the audience like, hey, this is definitely a Cinderella version. The shoe is generally important because the shoe leads the hunt. But if you've seen Ella Enchanted, you know there's no need for a hunt because he knows exactly who she is. Have you seen any of the versions that we have talked about? Leave a comment in the section below. Which one is your favorite? The Slipper and the Rose and Ever After, of the ones that we've spoken about, are my favorites, 100%. And they're just like top tier. They're top tier. They're always in the top 5 versions of Cinderella that I can rewatch happily. Wow! Generally, something else happens. There's a return to the comfort zone. And this might sound odd, but her abusive state is her comfort zone because that's her home. That's where she takes care of people. That's where she is earning her keep. The Hunt. Reclamation. I am suddenly having a crisis and wondering if Reclamation has an I because it's based on reclaiming oneself. I would look it up, but I'm clearly using my phone as my camera. Haha, the modern era. Okay, so here we are in Act 3. Act 3. That's right, we skipped over her rendezvous with the prince because... yeah. So the return to the comfort zone is going back to what you know, going back to what you're used to, even if it's no longer serving you, even if it's actively hurting you. If that's what you call home, that's where you go back to it. And the only way she's going to leave this place is with the hunt. The hunt implies that someone else is involved now. This is no longer a solo story. And then reclamation, the reclaiming of status. She wasn't always a servant, and it's unfair that to be a servant has this negative connotation, but it does. It has this negative connotation because people in the past, in the present, and as a whole, look for reasons to make themselves better than one another or to look down on other people. It's about how we treat one another, and generally, Cinderella is treated poorly. Reclamation is usually where she gets the opportunity to try on the shoe and represent it was her all along and come out of hiding. Coming out of hiding. Now, this is an important one. This is huge. This is happening for all of us who have survived the COVID-19 experience. It is currently 2021. Vaccinations are occurring, but reluctance is still occurring. There are still people who don't feel like this worldwide pandemic was real to start. There's just so much mistrust and so much misbelief. So coming out of hiding is the challenge. I've dropped my chalk. All right, under reclamation, I'm going to put sovereignty because I mention this a lot. Sovereignty. Sovereignty is the reclaiming of your power. It is taking control, taking power, and finding the power we have within. We as individuals all have our own power, whether we know it or use it or not. but we do. We all bring something unique to the table. We all are a special chemical concoction of human. And when we know that about ourselves and we're able to produce it on command, that's our sovereignty. That's us knowing what our powers are, using them to serve ourselves and others, and creating a whole other opportunity because we know how to tap into this. Cinderella's tale ends when she comes into alignment with people who see her for her value, appreciate the person she is, and want to build a life with her. Yes, generally that can be the romance with the prince, but it's also about who she meets along the way. There's plenty of versions of Cinderella where she's making friends, where she's making travel companions, where the people that she journeys with actually open her up and reveal parts of herself that she wasn't aware of. Think of The Slipper and the Rose, where Cinderella meets, yes, the fairy godmother, but learns that the fairy godmother herself is a servant, and they establish their own friendship. So whether by magic, spirituality, science, there's always a transformation that occurs because of a leap of faith that is taken, and Cinderella has so much to teach us about our lives today because we will always have new opportunities. We will always be encouraged to take our own leaps of faith, and we will always have to confront what our fears are and question, is going back to what we know the best option just because it's our comfort zone? Or is it worth putting on that shoe and finding who we are compatible with on the other side, lining up with that companionship and discovering our own sovereignty? I mean, to me, the answer is clear. It's obviously that. Take that leap of faith, put on that shoe, transform. I'm telling myself as much as I'm telling you. I'm going to write out those versions one more time, and we're going to compare what they have in common and what's different. Cool. So of the 5 that we've talked about so far, 3 are musicals. So it's going to get a little music note. Okay, let's see. What about magic? Cinderella, this version, not only was there magic, I'm pretty sure she was magic. Definitely magic in Ella Enchanted. Totally magic in The Slipper and the Rose. 100% magic Into the Woods. No magic in Ever After. Ever After was pure science. Leonardo! Some versions, her father is dead, but in some versions, he's alive and actively betraying her by allowing her to be treated like that. In this one, betrayal. In this one, betrayal. Into the Woods, betrayal. All of these have significance with the shoe. I mean, for heaven's sakes, The Slipper and the Rose has it in the title. But Ella Enchanted had nothing to do with the shoe at all, and that was more focused on her curse of obedience. I hope you're enjoying this dive because I have more Cinderellas to share with you. And we're going to be doing that as soon as I can get back into the woods. In the woods. That's not even music from Into the Woods. That's music from the musical of musicals, The Musical, making fun of Into the Woods. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this brief summary, this brief recap. This brief recap of all the Cinderellas that we've covered so far, and I hope you look forward to the next versions that I'm going to bring to you, because we've got versions. We've got versions. We have one where it's her destiny because it's a prophecy. We have another one where she is a designer. Yeah, that's right. Modern day Cinderella. And speaking of modern day Cinderellas, you know there's one where she works in a diner. And if you don't know, now you know. Dig it. But stay tuned because more Cinderellas coming at ya.